It looks like we have just about everyone. So I think I have met most of you so far, but for those, in case there's anyone I haven't, my name is Elaine Mahoney. I am the program manager for special projects and weatherization. So I oversee our infrastructure or slash BIL program, our ARPA program, and any other kind of like special new funding we receive. I'm joined today by, I have a new deputy program manager that I think some of you have met, my colleague Jonathan. So I'd like to give Jonathan a moment to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I recognize some faces, but not everyone. I see
Great.
Carol. I know we saw a few emails come through. I'm glad you're on the call.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, we're really excited to have Jonathan on board supporting the rollout of these new programs. And see Tom. Hi, Tom. Do you want to say a hello to the group?
Welcome to the BIL meeting. So this is the third rollout meeting I've been to, and it's a very good meeting and Elaine put together, and I'm really good information coming down the pike, and the funding stream for 4 years is going to be very solid.
Oh, have you seen it 3 times now, Tom? Do you want to do the
Nope.
spiel then?
No.
Okay, so the presentation is approximately 35 minutes. I've reserved 20 to 25 minutes for questions. Please hold your questions until the end of the meeting. I'm happy to go over a little bit if we need more time than the hour to make sure that everybody's comfortable and has all the responses they need. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Oh, and I forgot my Star Wars jokes in every other version of this rollout today, but you guys get to hear it. So it's not May the 3rd, May the 4th be with you all. Before beginning, a few reminders for a smooth discussion for our BIL rollout. Members should be on mute if you're not speaking. If using phone for audio, please tap the phone mute button. If you're using computer for audio, please click the mute button on the computer. Video is encouraged, in particular when you're speaking. I would love to see your faces. This is a training session and a program introduction, so there will be opportunities for questions and active participation, but please hold your questions until that time. In the event of a question or a comment, please use the hand raise function. You can find the hand raise button by clicking the participant panel button in the bottom right of your screen. Session moderators will call on participants, so that's myself and Jasmine. Also, if you have a question, please do put it in the public chat for the entire group. So we'll be capturing that, but if you message me privately, we might not have a chance to capture it for the FAQ that gets shared out with the whole network. So I appreciate that. Also, if you have a question, there's a good chance that somebody else in the group has the same question. So feel comfortable sharing it with everyone, please. Today is our last session. So after this session, we'll be collecting all the questions and comments we received from the 3 rollouts to put together an FAQ. We will be posting on the website the slide deck, a recording of the meeting, a BIL FAQ, and a BIL program fact sheet that Jonathan put together to help everyone kind of administer their program going forward. Okay, so we're going to be going over the goals of New York State climate goals and BIL goals, the timeline, contracts, funding options, technical assistance, and workforce development. So in 2019, New York State passed the most aggressive climate leadership legislation in the country with the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. We just recently, in the last couple of years, started allocating funds to put our funding where our policy is to support this work. So some of these aggressive targets laid out by this legislation are listed here on the left. We are tasked with developing 6,000 megawatts of solar by 2025, 3,000 megawatts of energy storage by 2030, 9,000 megawatts of offshore wind by 2035, 70% renewable energy for the grid by 2030, 100% zero emissions electric by 2040, and 85% reduction in GHG emissions by 2050. So a large percentage of that GHG reduction comes specifically from you and I working here in the building industry and reducing emissions from the residential building sector. The New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act overlaps with our building infrastructure program goals. Our program goals in weatherization have always been to assist low-income families with energy needs, improving the housing stock, and improving sustainability. And we intend to use this 289 million to achieve those goals while simultaneously reducing carbon emissions by 2040, getting to that 22 million tons of carbon reduction, specifically through electrification as soon as possible. So an overview of our BIL program is that we're getting 289 million over 4.5 years. The program will sunset June 30th of 2027. Scopes of work will be a mixed scope of work of, traditional weatherization work, some electrification ready, some partial electrification. Our goals with this program are to, increase energy efficiency and electrification statewide, to expand our network, expand our network's capacity, to increase market education and training. We're going to be doing a strong workforce development program that I'll detail out at the end of this. But really increasing the green jobs workforce is primary goal for us of this funding. Improving our training and technical assistance support to all of you. We're going to be increasing our grantee staffing to better support the rollout of the program and support all of your needs. Okay, this is a timeline for all of us for the next 2 years. So I have great news for you in that we have successfully achieved our first hurdle with the State Comptroller's Office and received our, first wave approval. So within the next week, everyone will be receiving their contract instructions and allocation chart. As soon as you receive that, please go ahead and start entering your information into the database. Prepare to submit all the associated documents. The documents required are the same as what you would submit for your regular weatherization program year. Do not do anything before you receive that instruction email. So, please take this time over the next few days to look at your budgets, work with your field reps, work with your regional supervisors to get everything you need aligned and in order. But don't actually take any action to upload things to the system until you receive that email from us. The faster you return your documents to us, the faster we can get your contracts back to you. So we'll be doing that over the spring. Once we have contracts up and running, we'll be releasing your 15% advances. Late June, we will also be releasing a notice of funding availability for temporary subgrantees. So we have set aside $20 million for temporary subgrantees to support the increased production required for the BIL contract. And that pot of money is completely available to you all in the subgrantee network as well. So if you are interested and you have the capacity for a greater allocation than what you have received by formula, feel free to apply. We'll be, looking over those applications and making our decisions through the summer and then making those awards in the fall. Throughout the rest of the summer, we'll be supporting you all with your pipeline determinations and scope review. We are working closely with NYSERDA to see if we can use Empower lists for pricing to hopefully accelerate some of that part of the work. So we will keep you posted as that's moving along. We will be what you receive with this contract will be like essentially 1 year, one budget year of a 2-year contract. So I'm going to describe that more later. But in spring of 2024, you will receive the second year budget of the second half of your first contract. Our target as a program is to achieve 30% production of our unit goals by fall of 2024. We have to hit that 30% number statewide in order to receive the remainder of our 289 million from DOE. So we have $145 million on the table until we hit that 30% production goal. So that'll be approximately 6,000 units statewide. Then we're looking to receive our DOE fund balances after that and have construction complete on contract year 1. Then we'll be launching contract term 2 in the spring of 2025. Our state plan is on the website. I think most of you have seen it by now, but for quick reference, the link is also included here. Okay, so this is a graphic that hopefully a little more clearly illustrates the budget, program years, and the contracts. So we will be entering into new 2-year contracts with all of you in 2023. And these contracts are going to be divided into defined budget periods that we are calling program years. So we're using the terms budget year and program year interchangeably. Your instructions are going to include all the current requirements for production, expenditure, closeout, and reporting. These contracts are going to include BIL funds only. BIL funds only. Your regular weatherization program year is a completely separate contract. It'll be tracked separately. It has to have separate units attached to it. Payments made during the year are going to be based on funds encumbered at the start of the budget year. So your initial allocation is based on that 15% of the 289 million that we currently have in hand from DOE. Once we have our state plan approved and we receive that other 35%, then we'll be able to start working to put in place what you all will receive for budget year, program year 2. So it's one renewable contract term that has 4 separate budget years. Okay. The other piece of this is participation in the program is required. At least for program year 1, the funding amounts were done by a formula, and that's in our state plan, and it's what we've reported to DOE. So program year 1 is required. However, after that, if you find that your capacity is higher or lower than what your formula allocated, after year 1, we have space to be a bit more flexible to different individual subgrantee needs. So we can have that conversation after we get through year 1. Out of your award, 18% of the award is for costs external to production. So that's things like audits, liability, insurance, etc. The other 82% would be for costs that are germane to actual unit production. Your admin rate will be capped as per DOE rules at 7.5%. Contracts are going to be awarded in the not so new database. Costs are going to be identified using the cost by source tab. You're going to get more information on that in your regional meeting, which I think is next week. Is that right, Tom?
You're muted, Tom.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Yeah, May 10th is a regional task force meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so there will be more information on any database questions at that meeting. Your advances will be 15% once contracts are approved. DOE is also updating their reporting requirements. They have not finalized the updates yet. All we know for right now is that they will be requiring folks to report out on how many renewable energy measures are installed and also to report out on Justice 40. So as we get more information about that, we'll certainly share it with you. But wanted to give everyone a heads up so that at this point you can be sure to be tracking that so you don't have to do look back tracking later on. So for the Justice 40 piece, they're looking for everyone to keep an eye out, for disadvantaged communities. And this is under our CLCPA legislation as well that inspired Justice 40. But essentially, BIL will require reporting on these metrics, and at a minimum, they're going to ask folks to be recording the number of contracted businesses during the year by either the grantee or the subgrantee. So tracking all the interactions with MWBE businesses will be like the bare minimum of what they're looking for. And so as we get more information on that, we'll certainly share it with all of you. Okay. The funding. So the ACPU for this program is $8,009. These dollars cannot be paired with weatherization dollars. However, to make them go farther, we strongly recommend that you layer them with one of these other identified programs. So they can be paired with CERC, they can be paired with WRF, they can be layered on top of your ARPA pipeline, or in the future, if there's a separate HEAP contract, that's an option too. They would be a great match for some of our HCR funded programs. So we have the HOME program, which predominantly focuses on like health and safety measures and deferred maintenance. And that's a $20,000 per unit cap. There's the Climate Friendly Homes Fund, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on, but that's a $25,000 per unit cap. So both of these programs have applications that are coming up within the next like 6 to 8 months. So please think about that during your pipeline development. These funds can also be paired with NYSERDA's MPP and Empower programs. I think you all are aware of that and already do a great job with the regular program of matching those funds together. Also, weatherization BIL funds can be paired with HUD dollars. And I think that's also something most of you have experience with, but we'd love to see an increased effort at really applying BIL to the capital stack to get like more bang for our buck in these projects. So here is a great example from the Capital District region of a public housing authority. Oh, wait, no, I'm a little bit ahead. Sorry. So encouraging you guys to look at working with public housing authorities. I want to remind everyone that we have categorical eligibility approval. So any public housing authority building automatically is eligible for weatherization BIL funds. And what this means is that you don't have to go through the income eligibility verification process. So using a public housing authority property can shave off a significant amount of time from your development process, which is also going to be really useful, particularly in this first like year and a half, as we're trying to hit that 30% production target by fall of 2024. So please consider those types of projects in your pipeline. Okay. The Climate Friendly Homes Fund that I mentioned before is a new initiative from HCR, and it's part of the 2022 housing plan. So the second round of funding, the applications are going to go live in winter of 2023. We will keep you all posted when they come out. The fund is $25,000 per unit for multifamily housing from 5 to 50 units. They're looking specifically at full and partial electrification. So some of this is fuel switching, which we don't have authority to do yet. But one of their priorities is also that they can improve building envelopes for energy efficiency and temperature control. So certainly a great match with weatherization BIL funding. And for, I've linked here for the application. There's also a term sheet on our website. If anybody would like more information about that to figure out how to match funding, please let us know. And we're happy to walk through the process. Okay, technical assistance. So there are a couple new caveats with the BIL funds. I think you've all mostly been through this before with ARA, but so we're going to be dealing with Davis-Bacon. Davis-Bacon is required on multifamily properties that are 5 units and above. for laborers and mechanics. So Davis-Bacon wages are only required when folks are working on the site. They don't have to be paid Davis-Bacon when they're at the subgrantee's office or when they're in the car traveling to the work site, only when they're working on property. Jonathan and I have been working diligently to set up Department of Labor training specific to Davis-Bacon to help people with wage rate classifications and management. So those are coming out in May. And Capital District has first cut. You guys have the first in-person and remote meeting. So that's very soon. And hopefully DOL will be able to answer all of your specific questions related to Davis-Bacon during those trainings. We're also looking at providing support for everyone using Elations as a software management tool to manage Davis-Bacon reporting. Okay, so Buy American is also going to be required for this program. The BAA requires that substantially all of the components of a manufactured domestic construction material be mined, produced, or manufactured in the United States. More specifically, the cost of domestic components directly incorporated into the product must exceed 50% of the total cost of components. So that means if 51% of the components from the US, then it meets the requirement. We are actively engaged and pushing with DOE to get some guidance around the Buy American requirements of this. We've heard that, some guidance was issued in Energy Out West. We have not received that. So we're actively pushing. As soon as we have more information from DOE to share, we'll certainly pass that all down to you. We understand this is a pretty significant effect on your budgets and your material and supply chains. So we're doing our best to work with you on that. Okay. We've also been working closely with our training partners, AA and NYSWADA, to develop some new trainings to support everyone as we're starting to manage multiple contracts. We want to provide trainings for that in addition to capacity building, business development, how to do new energy efficiency measures. Our training partners will continue to offer all the trainings that you've all become familiar with. They're just going to be expanding their offerings a bit to provide more support as we move towards more electrification and also this challenge of like increased production and multiple contracts. So we're really going to be ramping up across the board for everyone. Now, the last and pretty exciting piece of this is our workforce development program. So our bill allocation was for 289 million, and of that we received 50 million targeted just for training and technical assistance. We were required to spend a good portion of that towards workforce development specific for green construction jobs. So we're taking $20 million and working closely with City College of New York, University of Buffalo, and NYSWADA, creating a 12-credit weatherization certification program as part of a continuing ed offering. It'll be offered statewide. It'll be a mix of in-person and remote, so hybrid offering. It's going to provide new employees via apprenticeships by fall of 2024. These courses are going to target basic construction and building science skills. So the idea is taking someone with no exposure to the building trades, giving them a basic background education, and then capping that off with an apprenticeship with one of you all that would be paid for with the bill funds as like an entry-level employee, essentially. And then that person would continue on in their training and education, both by working with you as the subgrantee and by participating in NYSWADA and AA's boot camp offerings and other trainings. That program is currently in development. Like I said, we're targeting to have the first kind of cohort graduated by fall of 2024. So you're going to be hearing more from us as far as how many apprenticeships you may be interested in for your agency, what kind of roles would be most helpful, right? So there's different needs throughout the state. So some areas have a greater need for weatherization workers. Other areas seem to have greater need for construction managers. We're sensitive to that. And yeah, we're just going to be in communication about what you need to make sure this program is helpful to you all and really helping provide an on-ramp to increase employment opportunities statewide and make hiring easier for everybody. Okay. It should also, assist with administration budgets as well, because these are new employees that would be at least temporarily covered externally by HCR in the program. Okay, so this is a case study from the Capital District of Peacock Manor that I think a good number of you may have seen before. But I wanted to focus on this because I think it's a great example of how to work with the capital stack and leverage funds to do advanced energy efficiency and electrification. So this is a sample project that included a work scope of air source heat pumps, replacing windows, LED fixtures and bulbs, air sealing, and sealing off AC sleeve penetrations. And the way it was funded was almost a 50-50 split between weatherization funds and then Housing Authority and NYSERDA funds. And it came out to a CPU of 10,000 per unit, right? So the weatherization cost share of that is approximately 5,000 per unit. So as we're thinking about scopes and particularly how to meet the challenges of like Davis-Bacon, this is an excellent example of how it really can be done, because this would have come in at 5,000 per unit, leaving 3,000 per unit to pay for that very high additional cost of Davis-Bacon wages. So it can be done. We need a little creativity, a little flexibility, but a good number of you are already doing it, which is amazing and inspiring. And that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll go into questions. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I see a question from Tina Sharp. Tina, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. You're still muted. Hold on, I can unmute you.
Okay, thank you. So my question, I actually posted it in the chat. You had mentioned the leveraging of HUD funds, and so I was asking if you could really elaborate on which HUD funds we're talking about. Our community is involved with some, received some continuum of care funding, which is pretty strange. The funding is anyway, and wondering if that is something that could be considered. We don't have a huge pot of money, but if we were talking about doing some type of either renovations or renovations of units that are going to be used for permanent supportive housing or even transitional housing, I'm wondering if you've had any experience with those types of HUD funds.
I'm not familiar with care funding, but I would be happy to, explore that with you.
Sure.
I can say that in general, all the HUD dollars are compatible with all the DOE dollars. So programs where we have successfully matched these dollars are CDBG, CDBG-DR, LIHTC programs. I can provide you like a longer list, I guess. But yeah, I'm not familiar with care. I want to say like I can't, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's not really, there's not usually a lot of money that is available for new construction or construction costs, but they, that is potentially available. The other source of funding that you mentioned were home dollar funds. And so in our community, there's a different organization that does that currently applies for home dollars. So are there going to be additional home funds that could be applied for, or that we could collaborate with that organization?
That's a really great question. So home funds are not, they don't run the way that our dollars do, right? Like our dollars are obligated to all of you, our community action agencies and subgrantee partners, right? But home dollars are application only. So
Okay.
so people apply once a year for these funds and they get them or they don't. My assumption would be that in your community, there's one agency who just always applies, right? And so
Correct.
they probably always get it. So I would definitely recommend, collaboration over competition always. But yeah, I would say reach out and talk to them about how you can collaborate. And I would love to like continue that conversation more because in general, I think home is kind of an untapped resource for our weatherization dollars to do some layering.
We've actually had a pretty active partnership with our home funded agency because they put most of the dollars into the home repair funds. And so we actively refer and try to coordinate those dollars so that we can use the home repair dollars to take care of things that we really can't take care of, and to sometimes, we make those units weatherization ready before the
Right.
WRF
Yeah.
funds were even available.
Right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those dollars are great for approaching deferred maintenance, right? And then you
Right,
can
right.
put our dollars on to actually do the energy efficiency. That's a great model.
So would these be additional home funds that were available to communities, or
So there's not additional home funds. It's the
Okay.
regular pot of home money
regular? Okay.
that we're encouraging people to like apply for and apply to their projects.
Also known as our roof repair program.
Yeah. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, sure, sure. Anyone else?
There's a question in the chat, Elaine.
Oh, okay.
We had Scott Mathis ask if there is a methodology behind the 200 or the 20 million for temporary subgrantees, i.e., certain disadvantaged areas.
Is there a methodology behind like how much we allocated to the 20 million subgrantees? Is that the question, Scott? To be clear.
Now, the question is how, like, are you targeting that towards certain areas? Or is this just gonna be blanket lasso thrown out across the whole state to invite competition against the weatherization programs? So that's the question. You got $20 million. Are you gonna look at these in areas that actually need it, or you put a map up of disadvantaged areas? What is your plan of the $20 million, or is there no plan and it's just going to be thrown out there for the wolves to pick up the bones?
Sure, yeah. And so, I mean, this will all be outlined in our notice of funding availability. But there's absolutely a preference and a prioritization for the DACs. And we're also going to be identifying a preference based on like capacity, right? So just based on areas that have like a high need and not enough service, right? So I think that we have some subgrantees at this point. They're in low population counties, but they're covering maybe like 3 counties, a couple of folks, right? So potentially areas like that where some counties feel like underserved will also be another lens of review and prioritization. The intention is, I should really be clear about this. The intention behind the temporary subgrantees is certainly not to provide competition with our existing network. Like you all have done such an amazing job. And I'm especially grateful for all of you like sticking in there and like being good sports during our ARPA pilot. And like excited to do BIL with all of you. The idea behind the temporary subgrantees is just that we're significantly increasing what we're asking of everyone. We're significantly increasing the production over a very short timeline. And so we didn't think it was really reasonable to expect that everybody double their unit production overnight. We appreciate that some of you are willing and able to meet that challenge, but that's not the case across the board.
So I have another question.
Hold on one second, Tina. I want to make sure that we get to everybody's first questions before we go to second questions. Tanya, 1-year participation is required. Can you elaborate? If an agency makes the decision that we cannot meet the requirements due to workforce, admin costs, etc., and do not want the money, maybe submit a budget? Are you indicating we must sign? I'm sorry, could you, Tanya, could you rephrase that for me? I think there's like some typos at the end, so I was maybe losing what you were trying to say. Tanya, if you're trying to respond, you're on mute. Okay, no word from Tanya. Yes, everybody is required to participate in year 1. Again, the funding was allocated by formula. It's in our state plan. We don't have a process or a procedure to kind of claw back funding from people. We can be flexible on what happens for year 2. If your agency has like a specific challenge, please reach out to your field rep, and we'll kind of talk as a group between the BIL program and the weatherization program about how we can best accommodate your particular circumstance and work with you. Okay.
It looks like Tanya did respond in the chat. She's having some audio issues. And she just mentioned that if she asked if she doesn't want to move forward, if they could just not sign and execute the contract.
Yeah, I think we can maybe discuss that more offline. Like I said, the allocations are what they are. In general, participation is mandatory, but it sounds like perhaps your agency has a unique situation. So we can definitely talk about that. Reach out to your field rep and we'll schedule a meeting from there, Tanya. What else do we got here?
We have a question in the chat from Michelle Widrick. Will there be vehicle funding available? And also, are there specific forms like in WAP that we have to use for BIL funding for our folders?
That's a great question, Michelle. We are going to be using these same forms. So use your weatherization forms that are on the website. All of the kind of special, unique things we were all doing for ARPA do not apply here. These are DOE dollars. They're stimulus dollars, but for the most part, they're almost exactly the same as your weatherization program dollars. The only difference is that, it's multi-year and it's extra funding. Other than that, it's pretty much the same rules apply. So use those same forms. Absolutely. Vehicle funding is available as one of the expenses within your contract. We can, follow up on specific needs and amounts per subgrantee as you get your instructions. But yeah, vehicles are definitely permitted.
Hi, Eileen. I had a question come into me privately in the chat. Jake Geyer asked, do we need to declare a project for BIL before we start work, or can we make that decision at presentation?
That is also a great question. Yeah, no, you should know going in what projects are for what program. And I think the two main factors that are going to determine for you where to put a project in your pipeline is going to be the whether or not it's a multifamily, right? Like is it more than 5 units? Is Davis-Bacon going to apply? Does that mean this budget will work or not, right? That'll be like one layer of analysis. And then also the amount of time it's going to take to complete the project, you know. So like I said, we have $145 million on the table if we don't hit that 30% mark. So you all have 2-year contracts, but within the database, you are going to have, you know, kind of like benchmarks for production during that 2 years. So we are counting on all of you to hit your benchmarks by fall of 2024 so that we can give you a second contract. So I think those are like the two kind of levels of review you will use to determine which pipeline you put your project in. That said, at the end of the, you know, at the end of the cycle, like, you know us, you know that like we're flexible and understanding. Again, if there's a special circumstance, we can discuss special circumstances, but in general, like, know your pipeline going into your work. Okay. Manufacturing side of the business to increase availability of American-made materials. No. I mean, maybe. That's not really like, I mean, that's out of our wheelhouse for sure. You know, I think we've all seen in the press that there are definitely like efforts that are part of like big bill, way beyond bill weatherization, to increase American manufacturing and production efforts. But whether or not those efforts will like be online in time for us to utilize those products is beyond my ability to guarantee. Like I said, we're working really hard with DOE to get some clarity on that Buy American piece as soon as possible.
Elaine, it looks like we have another question from James Rettenauer. He has his hand up. Did you want to speak, James? You're muted. I can go ahead and unmute you. James, I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not working. Can you? There you go. Your audio may still be down. It shows that you are unmuted, but we cannot hear you speak.
We can't hear you, James. Do you want to put it in the chat maybe? Oh, I see things are happening. Things are happening with headphones. We're going to give James a minute to sort out his audio situation. Oh, wait.
That better?
There you are. You're there. Hello.
Hello there. Couple questions. I noticed you said the tree audit tool. Are you using anything else? The tips or anything, or just tree?
Yeah, you can use Treat and Equip for now. Will, are you on the call?
Yeah, we're seeking authorization to use Treat for fuel switching audits because for the multifamily projects downstate, it's been in use for a while, and it can also do the small homes, so it's the most immediately available thing that seemed the easiest for us just to provide something statewide, but it doesn't have to be the only
So if
tool
we're
we
not-
use, but it will be
If
the
we're
first.
not able, if we're not able to use Treat, we go to AEA or what, private contractors or what?
For fuel switching only. Right, are we talking about fuel switching audits?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those would just be Treat.
All right, then if I say no, we're not.
No, we're not what?
We stand with Treat only, right?
As an initial, at the initial stage, the first authorization we're going to seek for fuel switching is to use treat for both small homes and multis.
All right, how about past era jobs that were done back in era days? Are they eligible for the bill funding?
If they're more than 15 years,
So 15 years is the guideline. And eligible measures, we'll get something on, from you guys on what is eligible measures? Or is this the normal weatherization measures?
meaning
Normal weatherization measures are what's eligible. Just to be crystal clear on the audit tools. So wait, Will, pop back on video for a second. I just want to make sure we're delivering this in a way that everybody can follow.
Yes.
Okay, so for regular old audits, non-fuel switching, people can use what audit tools?
Oh, okay. Treat, e-equip for multifamilies and tips for small homes.
Terrific. And once we receive fuel switching authority, which we do not have yet, but we anticipate having sometime in the next 6 months, what will they use?
Treat for all fuel switching audits.
Got it. Okay. Did everybody get that? Are we clear? Awesome.
And the state's going to establish rules for that. You know, it'll all be rolled out at the same time.
Yep. James, do you still have a question or is your hand still up?
No, I think I'm done. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Elaine, we have a question from Peter Hansen in the chat. Are PHAS also automatically eligible to weatherization?
Oh, yes. Yeah, public housing authorities are categorically eligible for weatherization and for bill. That's a general DOE rule. So it doesn't matter which program we're talking about. Great question.
We have another question from Deanna Finster of Lewis County. When doing a combined work scope with NYSERDA and BIL, is NYSERDA money that is paid back, does that count as program income towards more BIL units? And if we have program income for BIL, will we have to roll forward the funds until we have enough to complete a building?
That is a great question. All right, so this is like a multi-part quiz. Okay, so I think the first part, whether or not NYSERDA money is paid back, depends on which NYSERDA program you're using, right? Like if you're doing one of the rebate programs, then you might get paid back. If you're doing a different program, that might not be the case. So the answer is going to be different depending on the program. And then I think the second piece, if you, the sub-grantee, get money back for the units, you know, I haven't dealt with that situation before. I'm glad you're bringing it up because it's definitely something we should address for the FAQ. But the rules would be like the same as they are for weatherization. So Tom, have you been in that situation before? Do you have guidance you could share?
I'd say, Michelle, I see you're talking about the Empower funding, and you can deal with that as either fee for service or program income like we have for our current policy. So really, BIL is just a continuation under our policy and forms is just the same as, BIL is the same as weatherization. Does that take care of that, Michelle?
Michelle said thank you. It looks like Tina, you had another question. Still, I have some other folks with a second question, but you were the first one. Tina, did you want to ask your question?
Thank you, Tom.
Yes, thank you. I want to go back to what you had mentioned in terms of the workforce development. So Columbia Opportunities has not done a lot of workforce development activities as in our community, but we certainly identify a need for more workforce development activities. There, you know, we're a rural community. We're not getting the benefit of some of those activities that larger communities might be getting. And so I like the idea that you're presenting about having different SUNY colleges offering some of this, but what we also experience is that it's really challenging for people to do a lot of this training just online. And what we have identified is a need for having some more like job coaches or navigators that can assist individuals who are doing some of the online courses or might even be trying to work through our local community college. Is there any potential that some of these bill funds could be used to help support a position of a job coach or a navigator?
Well, I mean, let me describe a bit more how the program is designed. So,
Okay.
and I should say the program is not like written in stone yet. It's still in development, but the overarching concept is essentially that there's CUNY is the leading partner downstate, and they will kind of have a distributed model between city university campuses throughout New York City. And they are going to partner with AEA as like a training space. And so there'll be a mix of in-person trainings, in-person labs, in-person classes, and hybrid class and online classes. So that same model is going to be duplicated throughout the rest of the state. The challenge with the rest of the state is that obviously New York State is huge, right? There's so many more SUNY campuses than there are CUNY campuses. So, there's going to be kind of less, it'll require like a little more traveling throughout the rest of the state than it does downstate to get to your site, which is part of why we're doing this hybrid option. We're looking at having a greater amount of distribution as far as like the on-site labs, having those be kind of like buildings in your community that we create partnerships with where folks can go and like do their lab there. Anyone who is in this program by virtue of being in the program will have access to our current TNTA providers and some trainers from there. They will have access to the university building sciences staff who are running this program. They will also have access to like each other, right? To the community of folks in their cohort as they go through the program. And then when they enter the apprenticeship with a subgrantee, they'll have access, to you and your team while still being like connected to training support from the apprenticeship program that they went through. So, I mean, I think that what we've designed provides like the oversight and support that you're identifying that need. Yeah. It's a little tricky to kind of meet that need between you want an online option to make it equitable and accessible, right? But then you want an in-person portion to make sure people are actually learning how to do the stuff, right? So we've been working really hard to like find that sweet spot.
Will you be using Hudson Valley Community College as one of your training and technical assistance providers?
We are trying to. That's kind of my best answer. My understanding is that they are a bit overburdened, but we've been trying to figure out a way to loop them into this proposal. Absolutely. Because I think they have a good amount of experience with this type of work from what I hear.
And
Also-
they're in a good location, for us at least, they would be in a good location.
Also, Ulster County Community College has a very active program for building performance certifications and things like that.
Is that the community college, Tom, or is that
Yeah.
okay?
Ulster Community College.
Okay, well, that's really helpful. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking at like a train the trainer model. So I think the more sites we can kind of add to this inventory list as potential distribution points of brick and mortar, that's really helpful. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Elaine, I had a comment come into my chat privately. How long are we going to have to wait before we can start getting approval for the fuel switches?
Will, you still here?
Yes, Jasmine, can you repeat that again?
She wanted to know how long the
Yeah, how long until they
EA and
can,
fuel switching.
yeah, approval for fuel switching?
It's in, it's been sent in. We sent in the application, so we'll hear back from them and they'll let us know next steps. I don't have a specific timeline, but I don't expect it to be terribly long.
Great, thanks, Will.
Okay, we had another question in the chat. Can any of these funds be used to help building owners pay for the audit?
I mean, so these funds run exactly the same way weatherization runs. So there's nothing kind of different there.
Okay. We have another question. What happens if the state overall doesn't meet its 30% threshold?
It is it's the end of the program.
Okay, next question from Carol Furman. They said it is the SUNY Ulster that's now in Ulster County. And then she also said, also, can we pay for a new vehicle with BIL money and then use weatherization and allow like weatherization folks to also use it? Or do they need to keep the BIL vehicle and regular WAP vehicle separate?
I think that's a really great question.
Elaine, can I jump in there?
Yes, please.
I assume, Carol and everybody, it's going to be the vehicles are going to be just like during ARA. And the idea is to get the vehicles in. It's all the DOE money to start with. And therefore, it shouldn't be an issue with the vehicles. I thought it was Ulster Community College. It's Ulster SUNY. I just know they have a very active program, Carol, and that's your backyard. So if you know anything more about it, please share it with the audience.
I mean, basically, it's just now called SUNY Ulster. It's part of the SUNY campus. And can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me? Oh, good. Okay. That's all I wanted to say. It's still the same place, same teachers, and a great program. Kelder House has a good test house. And so anyway, thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else?
We have no other questions in the chat right now. We're all set with that.
Wow, I love a meeting that runs perfectly on time. Well done, everyone. Can we just give ourselves a little celebration? That's a big deal. Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming today. We are, like I said, going to post everything on the website. So that will be up either end of day Friday or first thing Monday. And I'm really excited to see the pipelines and projects you all put together. And we're going to get you those contracts very, very soon. Thank you all so much. Bye. Have a great day.